Hello and welcome back to the Dubai Science Park Show. I'm Dr. Sheen, your host, and we are in day 2 of the World Health Expo. I am joined by the emergency expert herself, Dr. Sara, and we're super excited to learn everything from her about the on-the-ground plus the leadership management around emergency in Dubai, but also a little bit about chocolates. Hello, Dr. Sara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well.
Thank you for hosting me.
Of course. Tell me, how did you find the expo so far?
It's mind-blowing, I have to say.
Yeah.
With the technologies around, with the innovations, and how they're bringing the innovation to patient bed. Because we used to have the idea that innovation, there are two things. We used to think it's a technology, and it is something that you just see and being fascinated about. But the truth is that how you bring this technology to the bedside and embed it into clinical practice and daily operations, this is where it will have its utmost value, to have a marvelous screen or a machine that you cannot really apply it on the patient, that doesn't make sense.
Wow. And I know you are in the emergency sector. Yeah. What brought you there in the first place?
So I always think, and people say, people in emergency have ADHD. So I don't know. I haven't checked myself. But I didn't like when I have to see the patient on a daily basis. How are you doing? I like to see the patient, do the management, deal done. I always tell them, if you see the patient, you know the history of the patient, that's not good. That's mean you discharge him and he came back and that's not good. Or he's staying too long under your care.
Yeah.
So being into the action, actually my options were gastroenterology because you have the GI bleeding, the actions are happening, and then you have emergency medicine. And when I started, it was not on the map in UAE. I was, I think, the third in the UAE to do this subspecialty. I traveled to Canada, but now we have a growing system in emergency medicine locally and internationally.
And where do you see the future of emergency going now in the UAE?
I think it's going global, but I would say the Dubai style, the Dubai model, because I usually they ask me to benchmark it with the West, whether it's Europe, US, or Canada. But I usually tell them that yes, we can take the idea, but we need to customize it to our population, our setup, because we have our unique culture, unique population. And the expectations, even the least acute patient in emergency, he's expecting, and we should deliver him the service that we deliver to the highest acuity. So the expectations are different. So no benchmark around the world can match our expectation. And this is what's interesting about it.
Yeah, you're creating a whole new niche in the market for yourself.
It is. And I have to say, we're talking that I became the head of Rashid Emergency in 2018. And that's when COVID hits. And this was a big challenge because emergency before that was not on the map. And I would say even the government sector, government hospitals, people were not in favor of it. And guess what? Globally, emergency medicine became on the map as a specialty. In fact, because the patient, this is where was the gate to the healthcare system. They come, the policies, the management of these patients were crashing. You have to intubate them. It all started from emergency. And this is where the value of emergency became more and more. And I'm talking globally. Even where I trained in Canada, emergency usually is looked at as a, general specialty. You have the cardiologist, the gastroenterologist coming, but not as an emergency physician. But the value of it became more obvious during COVID. And also, as I was saying, that the leadership skills grow. So usually the grow is like you go gradually, but during COVID, this is what happened. And you have to learn because you're under a stress, and the stress what drives change. This is how I see it. Emergency always we are about taking quick decisions. And this is what happened during COVID, and this is where I polish my leadership skills.
Yeah, you're right, because generally in healthcare, COVID has really changed how we view things, and it has changed all the policies around. What are the lasting changes you're seeing, especially in your field of emergency, that a global pandemic has led to?
I think we became more people oriented, whether at the patient level or at the physicians, nursing, the team level, because if I don't know if you remember, during COVID, a medication is evidence-based today, you will use it, and then tomorrow it's like, no, it's useless, it's harmful, then you have another medication. But what actually helped the system to work is the people, the alignment, the communication with people, and the trust and the empowerment you give to the people. This is what made things smooth and going on. Yes, okay, we have a new guidelines, we can adapt. Let us sit down and see, and we delegate, you assign. And it is not only at the level of emergency, it's at the level of the whole hospital and the system, if we may say. And till day, I remember, there is a drawing we made, and it is embedded in the national policy for the UAE for one of the management approaches for patients with COVID, how to position them. So it's nice when you see the changes are implemented and it's there, but it wasn't my work only. It wasn't the infectious disease consultant only. It was a collaborative teamwork.
And do you feel like if we had a next global pandemic, God forbid, do you think we'll be more ready this time?
Hopefully, but we don't want to get a global pandemic. But people sense the urgency, even at the level of infectious disease. Again, people were like, it's unlikely we have an outbreak or something that will shut down the airport, shut down the Sheikh Zayed Road, You don't see a single, you're the only car driving to the hospital coming back. It was scary. No one put that into consideration. But I think after COVID, everybody learned the lesson. We have to be ready, whether we will need it or not. This is something you need to invest. And this is something we learn in emergency disaster preparedness. So infectious outbreak is one of these domains. And then you have trauma, you have, environmental, man-made, all. But the sense of urgency and disaster preparedness became even more stronger after COVID.
And obviously we're here in this conference, as you mentioned, a lot of tech is being mentioned. How do you see tech, or the word that everyone uses, AI, how do you see that changing emergency?
So I don't believe AI will replace humans.
Yeah.
Because I cannot imagine I will trust an AI machine to do an appendectomy, even as simple as removing the appendix, because there are some variations. Now, we can get accurate, but still you need the human cognition there. This is what human beings are special from Allah. And now we have the cognition effect, that the machines are about algorithms. Now, some people might disagree with me, but this is my personal opinion. I don't think they will aid us. They will make our life easier. And we will go into precision medicine. And this is one of the stresses on the system now, because we are able to diagnose more and identify problems earlier. So the demand suddenly increases, because now you have someone who's discovered they have a genetic problem or susceptibility to cancer. So that person now is a patient in the system. Before, we didn't know that he has it. He's not a patient in the system. So there is a whole growing population, precision in medicine, workforce fatigue. We say, the attritions of healthcare providers from the fatigue in the system, high demand. All of these are pressure on the systems, but at the same time, they are opportunities for improvement. And it's no longer about a single solution will solve it all. It's the integration, how we bring the care to integrated with research, policy, and technology, bring them all together to serve the patient at the bedside. Not just, fragmented. Here we apply technology, here we apply research. Is all of them are integrated to serve one purpose, that's the patient. So this is where, we find technology and innovation happens. With that, the governance and policies empowering innovation, it will speed up rather than slow the process. And in a matter of, on a high speed, you will see that improvement. And in the health science, now we're talking about the molecular level, at the genetic level. We are diagnosing diseases based on looking at the molecules, the proteins, and the cell. This is how you identify. So it's the boom that happens is by getting things all together. Before, universities working alone, industry working alone, hospitals working alone, and it takes 10 years, more than 10 years to reach the technology to reach. And they used to tell us in medical school that when you read the book is like already 5 years behind. and then you're reading it, and then once you finish, and then you have to catch up with what's happening. But now, no, the speed of knowledge translation into patient care is very rapid and almost instant.
You're right. And I think collaboration is definitely something that Dubai does really well when it comes to the advancement of healthcare. What else have you seen? Because you're someone who's been on the ground, you're still on the ground, and now you're also in the leadership, planning the future. What do you see that Dubai is doing very well in the sense of healthcare and advancement?
So it's the human factor. And how the system works together. So we are moving from individual excellence to system capability. Who do you have in the system? I cannot do the job alone. I run a team of more than 100 physicians. So there is no brain can manage these physicians, the systems that's running it. So it's all about the collaboration and the teamwork. And how you get the teamwork is by believing and entrusting your team, and being transparent with them, telling them why you're doing what you are doing. That the chances, they say there's resistance to change. The resistance, I notice, comes much, much, much less if they understand. And so that's what makes things happen and move. And this is one of the things that Dubai Health brought it into our DNA. At the level of Dubai and Dubai Health, we're talking about healthcare systems, is how to integrate, how to get people part of the formula for improvement. So it's all about people.
Yeah, it is all about people. And as someone who's made the transition as well, not fully, but you're still on the ground and still in the leadership, what was the one thing that you were most surprised by now that you are involved in the planning and the logistics and thinking ahead of the future? What is something that surprised you?
It wasn't a surprise as much as it was expectation. Coming from emergency mindset, you need to get things to instantly think of solutions. And the way we think is different than, when a patient comes, usually we start with management and then we think about the history, about, going into the details. So we start from lower and go up. So it was a bit difficult for people to understand how we think as an emergency, how we get things run. So we start bottom up. And leadership is top down. That also goes bottom up both sides. But in emergency specifically, I can say it's more like you go bottom up and you go horizontal.
Right.
So it was a bit, I wouldn't say a challenge. We had to explain it.
It was learning, yeah.
Learning that, we work horizontally. So there is no, because I'm a consultant, I will be supervising and seeing the let us say the specialist doing. So we work at the same level. Today I have my area B, A, for example, and tomorrow I have an area B, and the next day the specialist will be in area A and B. So the work within a team, I would say it is embedded in our specialty. It was there, but it took time for people to understand why we don't have the hierarchy in it. And now, guess what? It's everywhere now. The whole system is running it the same way.
And what's your hope for the future when it comes to emergency care?
So during one of my assignments, I did my MBA, and we're looking that the future will be more in prevention. So the future, the way I see it, will be less hospitals, less needs for hospital beds, because you're identifying diseases early, you're managing them. So basically, we'll be out of business. This is how I
love
see
that.
it. So this is where the future is going, because once we have more precision medicine, you will not have patients hopefully sick coming to the hospitals. They need management. Even the cars, when you're driving the cars, there was just reflecting the other day, we have cameras now in the car. Before, it was a higher number of accidents that might happen when people coming in reverse and hitting people. Now, because you have these sensors, it's technology, and it helped to reduce these type of accidents dramatically. Seat belts, things simple that we do in daily lives, we don't understand the value. But if we compare the rates of accidents now and before, it is much less. The same thing for diseases, you're identifying it early. Cancer, you have genetic profile, you can go through and identify the genes if someone has it, and start treatment before it hits and spreads.
Absolutely.
So hospitals will come less and less.
Well, Dr. Sara, thank you so much for all the beautiful work that you do, and I hope that you do go out of business.
I hope that as well. That's why I have to think of exit plan.
Well, you have the chocolate as the exit plan.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much for hosting me. Thanks.